Hello and welcome to Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. I'm your host, Lynn Newman. Today we're talking with Veronica Colondam, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Yayasan Cinta Anak Bangsa, the Let's Love Our Nation's Children Foundation.
Yes, something like that, yes.
Veronica, welcome. YCAB has become one of the biggest, I think, and best known foundations in town, chiefly because most people describe you as an absolute force of nature.
Wow.
That you're tireless in your devotion to this group. And I really am anxious to have you tell us the YCAB story and how this came about.
Okay. Happy to be here, Lynn. Thank you for having me. YCAB is, I should say, the product of my own spiritual journey. In 1997, okay, I started to have a personal struggle. I know that people can ascribe meaning to their life in any ways they want, but for me at that point of time there was like a critical time in my life. I was already married, I have 2 little children at that point of time, and I'm thinking there's something else that I can do that in my talent, you know, to bring more meaning for myself and also to change the world. So that's pretty much.
What were you doing at that time? That wasn't enough for you?
That wasn't enough. Yeah, I was a mother of 2, and of course a wife. And I guess there's something that you need to express in your life. You know, some people will, you know, take the role. I mean, nothing wrong with the role. It's a very honorable role to have. But then some people are just given different kind of capacity and talents. And I feel that was my time to kind of do something more with my life, you know, in addition to my role as well.
Because in Jakarta, as in a lot of cities, in Asia especially, there are women who will say, well, I've got it made. I'm an ibu-ibu or a tai-tai in Hong Kong. I don't have to work. I go to lunch.
It's funny you use that word, tai-tai. Yeah.
This isn't what you wanted. You wanted more out of life than obviously than going to lunch.
I guess people have to make sense of it. You know, how do you want to be remembered? That was the question that kept chasing after me, you know. That was the whole struggle was to answer the question, you know. It's how do you want to be remembered? You know, if you imagine the end of your life and you have a little, you know, tombstone, what do you want to be written there? If you're happy with a mother and, you know, a wife,
she
then
had
that's
a lot of great lunches.
So think about it.
I understand.
So,
sure. And so where did the idea for YCAB come from?
Okay. I was just being strategic. As a mother of 2, I was thinking I want to invest my time in developing young people. So at that point of time, I identify that one thing that every parent or every mother's nightmare is to, you know, for their children to engage in risky behaviors that leads to addiction, leads to HIV and all of that, viral infections. So that was the first pillar of YCAB was born in under health team.
Yeah, it was first associated with the drug addiction, right?
For the education for prevention of drug abuse and also HIV and AIDS. That was our health pillar. But because we want to develop young people, and I look at the Indonesian youth, that half of youth population at that point of time was not in school. So the second pillar, almost half, Lynn, only 1/3 could actually continue to high school. So I thought we need to do something about this. So the second pillar was born and under the theme of education. So we have health, we have education now. 2003, we started our Rumah Belajar, which is the community learning center that we had in order to get those young people who drop out of school, who are already working in the street, and come back to education, to get education, and to continue their education. Not only that, we give them digital inclusion, which is an IT skill. English is a must. We're the only country in the Southeast Asia who cannot sort of like, you know, compete with the other countries if we don't speak English. And the last one, they have to pick one skill, vocational skill. So at the end of the education period, they can get jobs. So that's the idea. The job and the welfare, economic empowerment is the third pillar. So we have health, education, and economy.
Now, in Indonesia, and especially in Jakarta, we see this all the time. We've written about it so much in the Jakarta Globe. Street kids who just seem to be lost in syndicates and glue sniffing and what have you. How do you go out? How do you find these kids? How do you find the kids, the young people that you can actually reach? Because you can't reach all of them. There are tens of thousands of them in Jakarta alone.
Not. Actually, the data said that it's 160,000 now street kids living and making money in the streets. But you have to understand there's a spectrum of street kids. There are core street kids, which is those who are organized by petty crime in the streets. There's what they call mommy organizing their operation. That's a very core street kids who do not have any more connection with their family. They live and sleep in the street. But there's a second category which is better. So they make money from the street, but they're not part of any syndicate, and they still go back to their parents. And the third one, which is better among them, is those who make money, but they're not the focus, or they are not the whole economy of their home economy is not dependent on this person. Make money from the street, and then they still go back to their family. So in our Rumah Belajar, most of our students we can recruit is from these two categories. We have a couple from the core, but then it's the hardest part because they have to want it. They have to want to live and take the risk, be rejected by their group, because when they fail here, they cannot come back there.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Right.
We're just about out of time for this segment. When we come back, I want to talk about how you sustain this kind of work and what kind of results that you're getting. You're on Inside Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. I'm talking with Veronica Colondam of the Yayasan Cinta Anak Bangsa. Stay with us. Welcome back to Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. Today we're talking with Veronica Colondam from Yayasan Cinta Anak Bangsa. And in the last segment, Veronica, you were talking about the categories of street kids that you get a hold of. Okay, so you find these kids and you start working with them. What kind of success rate do you get? Because I've interviewed street kids many times over the years in places like Manila and Bangkok and here, and frequently the pull of the street is great because there's cash out there and there's freedom of a sort. How do you hook them in and keep them in the program? Yeah,
the retention is always the challenge for us. You know, no matter how good is the program, we can't retain them to study there. It's hard to keep them there. But since 2003, we have educated about 15,000 of street kids working. We would like to say them that are like working kids and also underprivileged. They are all underprivileged. We have educated about 15,000 of them, and we have 8,000 now studying at this academic year. And most
8,000 kids under YCAB alone.
This academic year, yes.
Wow.
We're moving towards 20,000 until the end of this year with 8,000 under 18 Rumah Belajar, and at the end of the year we'll end with 45 Rumah Belajar, which will cover about 20,000. We're hoping really to get not only the street kids but the dropouts. So you have one problem here, we have another 3 million dropouts a year. You're talking about 7 children a minute drop out or do not continue to higher education. So this is the bigger chunk, Lynn, and this is what I think interviews like this should inspire people who's hearing who see this show to want to do something for the dropouts.
Well, but in the last segment, we'll put up a graphic so that people know how to get a hold of you and how to get a hold of YCAB. Now, there's been a lot of late. We've had a couple of people on the show, Santiago Uno, and I think his name is Scott Thompson?
Scott Thompson, yes.
Oh, that's terrible. I didn't prepare, obviously. Scott Thompson, who's the fellow who's going to run next month from Bali to Jakarta. And Sandy, of course, organized
New York Marathon.
the New York Marathon effort. So there's a lot of high-profile stuff happening with people getting involved with you guys. That's the other side of it, of course, is that you've managed to reach out to the upper levels of society and get a lot of people involved in YCAB. How have you done that?
Yeah, first of all, everybody would like to support a cause when they have already see the track record. Time has proven we've been around for 12 years, and we are still faithful in doing what we have done. And reaching out to the upper level or high level, as you say, it's something that I think should become the source of inspiration for other, part of society. And one of the reasons that they are very interested to support is because we have prototyped what we call a social investment. So this is something that promises sustainability to any social activities like what YCAB is doing. So social investment is like a different level, like from us, YCAB, to move from donation-based foundation, NGO 1.0, I should say, move to NGO 4.0.
Well, I was reading about this on your website and impressed by this idea that you have actual businesses that are not necessarily branded as YCAB.
No.
They're just businesses. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah. I think sustainability from the first year after we established YCAB is the key to sustainability. I mean, I'm born and raised in an entrepreneur family. I'm married to an entrepreneur. So that's the only way I know how to sustain something. So YCAB, being nonprofit, we thought we need something that keeps pumping in money for that. For me, at that point of time, the easiest way to start a company. So Yada is the company, is involved in the toys, robotic toys, amusement sort of. We have outlets all over Indonesia, about 100 of them. It's the first company.
These are like the toys that kids ride on?
They ride on, like $1 a ride kind of thing. And yeah. So this business started in the year 2000. By the year 2009, this company is able to support the administration cost of YCAB, which is through a shared resources, right? So
it's a for-profit company, but the profits go
not the profits sort of like, but then they kind of help YCAB's daily operation through shared resources. So by that, then all donations that come into YCAB will 100% go for the program. So that's the idea, because entrepreneur thinks in that way. When they donate 100 rupiah, how many percent really
This
go,
has always been a problem. NGOs frequently go to funding sources and they say, we will fund programs, projects, we won't fund operations and salaries. You figure out a way to do that yourself, and so you figured out a way to do that with businesses.
That's why we need profit centers or for-profit organizations around YCAB, so that we can survive, we can make sure that the operation of YCAB will stand no matter what. So we have this, what I call WOW principle, with or without you. In terms of the operation, we have it sort of like nailed, and then it's covered by our own group. So that's one problem aside. What we need when we want to reach out to, to the other groups or the other parts of Indonesia, then we work with corporates in terms of partnership, and with Sandy, with someone who would just raise fund individually and all that. So 100% of whatever effort that comes out of it will go for the program.
When I hear you talk, I think maybe we ought to run the government on this principle. People might be more happy, but people might be happier to pay their taxes that way. That's just me talking anyway. We'll talk more about you when we come back. You're on Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. I'm talking with the very engaging Veronica Colondam from Yayasan Cinta Anak Bangsa. Please stay with us. Hello and welcome back to Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. Today I'm talking with Veronica Colondam from Yayasan Cinta Anak Bangsa. Before we run out of time, Veronica, I have to mention some of these amazing awards that you've won. You got a National Gold Award from the President of Indonesia. You received a Civil Society Award from the United Nations. Ernst & Young called you Social Entrepreneur of the Year. That must be quite an honor. You must be doing something
very
right.
Very much. I mean, this is, must be something right. Yeah, this is quite a honor for me to be acknowledged, I guess, through everything that I have started in 1999. But it makes me feel more like a little goldfish in the aquarium, because everybody now is watching me. Everybody, you know, is just waiting that I, you know, sometimes if I don't do anything, something wrong or something.
A lot of what you're doing is, you know, to be quite honest, a lot of what you're doing is stuff that we wish the government did better. We have a crisis in education in Indonesia. Everybody talks about it. The educational system is not where it should be. Are you able, do you think you're able, through some of what you're doing, are you able to, are you talking to people in the government? Are you able to inspire anybody? Can you have any solutions that you think of on a broader, on a broader level?
Absolutely. I guess to bring a national change, transform this nation in terms of education, at the end of the day, you have to work with the government and, you know, to help inspire them to some extent. Through our Rumah Belajar, we have set an example, a kind of, I think, at least a standard type of certification. We work with universities, BINUS, to certify, and also we got a few other corporate sponsors in it, and I think that's the model is already out there, and we're happy to be adopted by our government. But at the same time, we are also running the package for the like accelerated learning, like the high school equivalent, sort of like education, packet ABC. We run B and C pretty well, and we're working also with the social, now they say Kementerian, right? The Minister of Social Welfare, pretty much on how to improve the welfare, because education is great to some extent, but if you can't be sustainable, if you can't secure job or increase your welfare, then there's no development. So that's where we're going to increase the welfare.
As you reflect back, though, on the reasons why YCAB started, you mentioned early on that 33% or whatever the figure is of kids don't go on to higher education, by meaning high school, not even, never mind tertiary education, but even high school. What's the reason why? What's the reason for that in Indonesia? I'm not pointing fingers at the current government, but what's the reason for that figure? Because Indonesia is well below most of the rest of Southeast Asia on those kinds of indicators.
Yes, we are very concerned about Indonesia's education level. And I guess one of the reasons, if we continue to do a survey and ask our stakeholders, the students, the parents, or the family of the students, we'll find out that the reason that they drop out, cannot continue to education, is because they cannot afford it. The free education is just a semantic, I guess. I mean, there are other fees that has to be paid to the school,
so they uniforms and other stuff that they have to buy.
The affordability level, which kind of needs to be adjusted with our people at the bottom of the pyramid. So what we do, we bring that free education to them. Well, they pay, we call it a dignity price, pay $1 a month, which is 10,000 rupiah, just to get them sign up and have a dignity that they pay for their education here. But then it's pretty much free. For that, we feel that we are doing something that creates, you know, changes in the life of these young people. I always get, you know, my own, I think, heart to be strengthened by what Mother Teresa said. If you can't change the whole world, you know that you're changing the world of someone. So at least this year we have 8,000 people and 5,000 families that we support their increase of welfare through microloan operation, and that's how we kind of sustain ourselves as an organization through this social investment. And
you also, if I'm not mistaken, right, you've reached out to the U.S., right? You've established a presence in, is it Atlanta and New York now?
We did, yeah, we did. We were born as the paperwork was done in 2007, and then we moved operation to New York City in last year, 2010, and that's the hope, to kind of reach out to the world and to share the best practice, but also to kind of be the way for us to give a tax incentive to our corporate sponsor and corporate partners, because most of them are U.S. Headquarter based in U.S. So that way we could actually leverage on our work at the global scale.
Now we're almost out of time, and you seem it was a whirlwind talking to you because the time just flies right by. Very quickly before we leave, and also we'll put up on the screen a pop-up graphic how you can get involved in YCAB and donate and be part of this remarkable organization. But what's next? What are the big things coming up for YCAB?
Oh, we're very excited about the social investment. We have started the prototype in 2009. We are going into our third cluster. One cluster works with 2,500 people and provide a school education for 400 kids. This is what Sandi Uno social investment for the New York Marathon is going to be. So we're moving towards this, and we want to increase up to 20,000 families to be supported through this and the education of their children. So this is a very critical moment, because this is where I could then maybe propose a different set of mind, not as a donor, but as a social investors, because this way you can get a double bottom line, you can get the financial gain, and you can get a social impact at the same time. So this is the concept that I think. So
social investment, that way you're not just giving money away, you're investing money, you get a return.
It becomes a perpetual fund.
And you help someone else at the same time. Well, that's what they call a win-win. So as an entrepreneur, you like that. Now I get a last question. I assume you're not going to retire and go back to being a housewife anytime soon.
No. I think I will retire when I close my eyes to this world.
On that note, we'll close the show, but I'm sure that'll be a long time before that happens.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for having me.
I've been talking today with Veronica Colondam, the founder and chief executive officer of Yayasan Cinta Anak Bangsa, a wonderful foundation here in Indonesia that works on education. This is Inside Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. I'm your host, Lynn Newman. The show can be watched on live streaming on Berita Satu TV and beritasatu.com. It's also available online on thejakartaglobe.com. I was just kidding. I do know the name of the show. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
There's a place in your heart